Let's talk about 7 ways to save money that aren't high yield savings accounts. Now, if you are like me, and I suspect you are in many ways, you've likely been bombarded with videos all about high yield savings accounts and how their rates are now super awesome, particularly in this period of higher than average inflation. Everyone's favorite economic phenomenon. I'm sure you've also noticed that inflation is coming down a little bit. And so, likely in the near future, so will those sweet high yields in those savings accounts. And the truth is, those sweet rates, well, they really aren't all that cracked up to be. So are high yield savings accounts the only game in town? Actually, no. There are at least 7, yes, count them, 7 different types of accounts that you can leverage for all your savings needs. Let's dive right into it. First things first, saving is important, but it's not the end all be all, particularly when it comes to growing your wealth. You need to save for things like personal emergencies, to have the money to invest, and to really crush it with your credit cards, particularly using my patent pending sweet credit card crush it technique. Now, it's not really patent pending, and anyone can do it and copy it and use it to their great financial success. In fact, I have a video about it that I'm linking in one of the cards that you see on the screen right now and in the description down below. So be sure to check it out after you watch this video. And of course, press the like and subscribe button and turn on all post notifications. But these accounts that I am pointing you to, you should be using them as well as tools to enable your future financial success. Just putting money in them and expecting great things by themselves, however, will likely lead to disappointment. Remember that saving in general never has been and probably never will be a great way to build wealth. The truth is, you should be focused like a laser on growing your income, either by making your main gig as lucrative as possible, or adding side hustles that can evolve into lucrative main hustles that eventually power your financial success. Secondarily, you should be investing as much as possible, both in high-risk investments, in high-risk investment instruments, and in a quote-unquote safer investment instrument. That tip alone is worth a separate video, but the savings vehicles I'm about to describe as a way to have money for your investments from your income, and like I said, to power your credit and leverage strategies, well, that's what we're going to talk about today. Now, the reason you want to use a savings engine, and not just your checking account, is because of everyone's favorite economic phenomenon, formerly known as inflation. You see, just earning and letting it sit in a checking account under your mattress or buried in your backyard is a surefire way to not get wealthy, because as time passes, the value of your hard-earned currency simply fades. So you want to use strategies to minimize that fade and possibly get a return. These accounts will let you do just that. Now, what are these account types? I'm talking about certificates of deposit, high-yield checking accounts. Yes, high-yield checking, money market funds, money market accounts, Treasury Bonds, Treasury Notes, Treasury Bills, and IBonds. Let's start off with certificates of deposit, commonly called CDs. When I was a young teen, oh so long ago, I used to listen to people discuss their saving strategies and then talk about purchasing CDs, and I used to wonder to myself, how will owning a copy of Britney Spears or NSYNC's latest hits help you to save more money? A, yes, I am that old. I am so old that 90s pop was in vogue when I was a teenager. And B, the kind of CD that can power your savings, that acronym stands for Certificate of Deposit and not Compact Disc, of which there are very few around anymore. Speaking frankly, we're lucky there are no finance products with the DVD acronym that I know of. But certificates of deposit are a great way to save money for long-term expenses, particularly from a wealth growth perspective. Those long-term expenses could be saving up to make a big move on an investment item you had your eye on, like your first rental property that could kick off your real estate empire, or your first in a chain of franchises that you own. But also, they could be used as a great way to save up for your emergency fund if used in conjunction with CD ladders. CD ladders are when you fund CDs during a set and determined period of time and stagger the maturity dates while ideally reinvesting the earnings of one CD into the next CD on that ladder, etc. A much more targeted and specific video on this technique will be dropping, so specifically to clear up any confusion. But just know that for long-term spending, CDs are an awesome way to get the cash and mitigate the ravages of inflation. You just have to keep in mind, this should be money that you know or expect you will not need for a certain period of time. The reason being that if you pull that money out of the CD, you can be penalized anywhere from 1 month's worth of interest to up to a year of interest or more, depending on the CD that you purchased. Now, there are zero penalty CDs, but they offer lower annual percentage yields, commonly coined as an APY. Typically, the longer you lock up your money, the higher the APY, but also the higher the penalty for withdrawing early. So if you're going to purchase a CD, you need to go in with a game plan in mind, which is very similar to investing and saving in general, which takes us to the next type of account, money market funds. If you're looking to maintain a pool of liquidity for investments that you're going to be making in the short or near term, then a money market fund might be the choice for you. Now, what is a money market fund? Well, this is a type of mutual fund that invests in ultra short-term bonds. Now, they're typically found through a brokerage like Charles Schwab or Fidelity, and even some of the newer players in the game, like Robinhood or Webull. But folks who have their eyes on serious, focused investment strategies, either via a long-term value investing strategy or shorter-term strategies like day trading, well, they put the money that they're going to use for that in money market funds. Investors, they like them because you have your cash in a growing fund, which can be in the 4 to 5% range for a 7-day period. There are a couple of things that make money market funds unique. We just talked about one, and that being they are actually mutual funds and not bank accounts. This has an interesting twist because it means that the FDIC, well, it's not insuring this. and thus you're at risk of losing your entire principal if they go bad, which is rare, but it can and does happen. It also means that you are technically not earning interest, but are earning a dividend. There are 3 types of money market accounts: government money market funds, which have the lowest yield and thus the lowest risk; prime money market funds, which have the highest yield and therefore the highest risk; and then there are municipal money market funds, each with a specific positive and negative. A whole other video could be dedicated to just that topic alone, so I'll keep it to the high level for now. But just remember, money market funds, they're not FDIC insured, and although they are designed to be extremely safe, there is a risk that you'll lose principal. But if you need a place to park your cash that you'll be needing to execute your well thought out investment strategy, then a money market fund is the kind of thing you should be looking into. And money market funds are often confused with money market accounts, which is what we're going to talk about next. And that makes sense, right? They kind of sound the same. Well, the only difference is that a money market account, it is actually FDIC insured. So technically, you have a backstop to the institution that's issuing them if it goes belly up. Money market accounts are somewhat of a mix between checking and savings accounts. At this moment in history, you can find a money market account that has a similar yield as a high yield savings account, but you also will have greater access to your cash. This does seem like the best of both worlds, but the truth is you probably will have to maintain a minimum balance that could be as high as $25,000. You also could face penalties and fees. Let's not forget that if interest rates go down, your yields will go down as well, just like with high yield savings and checking accounts. One thing that's also not mentioned is that money market accounts also do not encourage you to maintain good spending and saving habits. The reason being that they're so liquid. But there are occasions where they make sense, specifically when you have a shorter term savings goal, like picking up a new laptop or saving up for a vacation or something that's not particularly expensive, but something you want to save up for, especially if you're looking to do a little credit card hacking. So if that's you, be sure to check them out. It's a similar situation for high yield checking accounts. There are banks that offer high yield checking accounts, believe it or not. The benefit here is that you have an FDIC insured account that is relatively liquid with a slightly higher than normal APY that can be as high as 2.7%, particularly for online banks. And if you shop around and are willing to make a few sacrifices, that checking account could be yours. If the bank you select, if they don't have their own ATM network, or they don't reimburse other banks' ATM fees, you could be out a pretty penny anytime you use your quote-unquote liquid checking account. In addition to that, you may be required to maintain a minimum balance, not go over a certain number of debit transactions or bill payments per month, or they'll just make you jump through other hoops in general. So that little extra APY might not be worth the extra headache, but it is an option if you need a higher APY and need your funds to be liquid at the same time. Let's talk about Treasury bonds. If you're looking for a quote-unquote risk-free income stream, then you might be looking at any of the next 3. I'm talking about Treasury bonds and Treasury notes, Treasury bills and IBonds. Each of them are technically completely backed by the federal government of the United States. You know, full faith and credit and all that. There are differences between the 3 of them. With all 3, and frankly with any account arrangement type designed for saving, the longer the maturity period, the higher the payout you can expect. Treasury bonds and notes are debt instruments issued by the US government. Basically, the feds are applying for a credit card and you're the lender of the bank, which is one way to get on the other side of a debt spiral. And just like a credit card company or bank, it's up to you to determine the creditworthiness of the borrower. And this is where credit rating agencies and their assessments start to matter. Again, separate video, separate topic. Like and subscribe. In most cases, the longer the maturity, the higher the interest rate or yield a bond or note pays out. You know, that stated, with our current economy, Treasury bonds are experiencing what's known as a yield curve inversion, in which shorter term duration debt has a higher yield. So at this moment, it doesn't make sense to get into a longer maturity date bond, unless you're betting that the curve could reinvert, which could be more profitable for you. But you will notice that the term for Treasury bonds is quite long, anywhere from 2 years to 30 years. That's not the case for Treasury bills. The short duration of T-bills in comparison to longer dated Treasuries and most CDs gives investors flexibility, making T-bills a good place to keep money in anticipation of funding a near-term expense, such as a college tuition bill. Because of their short maturities, T-bills don't pay out interest, but the government prices them for auction below their face value. Sort of weird and non-intuitive. So stick with me. Investors can earn money by buying T-bills at a discount, holding them to maturity, and collecting face value. For example, say you buy $1,000 in T-bills for $970. At maturity, the Treasury pays you back the face value, so you earn $30 in interest. Along with T-notes and T-bonds, T-bills can be laddered in the same way you can ladder a CD, so that you're reinvesting them on a regular basis, but you have the option of just taking the money at maturity if you need it. Then there are I-bonds. They're designed for long-term inflation protection, and just like the other bonds we talked about, T-bill, T-bonds, I-bonds are debt issued by the US government that you, the investor, pick up. You purchase these bonds directly through Treasury Direct, and they have a 30-year maturity term. The thing that differentiates these from some of the other bonds we talked about, they adjust their interest rate payout every 6 months. So if inflation goes through the roof again, in 6 months, your interest rate will go up also, presumably close to what the inflation rate is. With this type of bond, however, you're only able to purchase $10,000 per person per year. I say only, but that is a lot of money to put aside every year And frankly, it's a really good goal to try and hit for your first time saver. With all these bond types, they are exempt from state and local taxes. So if you live in a high tax district like New York, LA, or San Francisco, you could save a little bit on your taxes. And an important point to make with all of these bond types and with CDs is that you can stagger the maturity dates and reinvest the profits to really rocket your savings. What am I talking about? Take a look at the video you see on your screen right now. And don't forget to like, subscribe, and click the notification bell to get more videos just like this. And remember, a goal without a plan is a wish. A goal with a plan and no action is a wish list. I'm Derek West. This is Finance Squared. I'll catch you in the next video. Peace.